Like cooking, everything has a recipe.
A set of instructions to follow in order to gain a certain result.
Music is no different.
Be it ingredients for a dish, a set list for an amazing show,
Or a release strategy for a successful launch.
these are all recipes.
Hi, we're your hosts, Sean.
And I'm Brandon.
Come and join us in our kitchen as we go through the Music Maker's Cookbook.
Let's get cooking.
Welcome to the Music Maker's Cookbook, the podcast that helps independent artists like yourself cook up recipes for success in the music industry. I'm Sean.
I'm Brandon.
And thank you for checking out this podcast, especially if this is the first time you're listening to us, and also especially if this is not the first time you're listening to us. Just thank you for tuning in.
Yeah. It doesn't change all that much. One's a welcome and one's a welcome back.
Yeah, exactly. Just an added word.
Exactly.
But when you have people that you work with and converse with consistently, it's important to every now and then say thank you, like you're welcome, appreciate you being here, give them a reminder, let them know you're around, stay top of mind, send them an email, schedule a call, meet up for lunch, things like that, you know.
Why?
Just it helps build business and personal relationships. I mean, this is the music industry. You would be surprised to maybe hear this, but it's all about who you know and the relationships you build.
That is true. Your network is your net worth.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
I forgot about that one. That's a good saying.
It's a really good saying because it's actually true.
And it's like the alliteration of it too. It's just fun to say.
It is. But it's a
network.
tongue twister if you say it too fast. That's why I had to slow down.
Fair enough.
I had to slow down because I was going to fuck that up real bad. Real bad.
But honestly, just today we're diving into CRMs, which stands for Customer Relationship Management Software.
Mm-hmm.
This is a business software that is used a lot of times in independent businesses, large businesses, yada, yada, yada. But it can also be very, very helpful for independent freelancers and small business owners and musicians. Because guess what? You're a business owner and your music is your product. You're an independent artist. That means you're at a small business or whatever as well. Yeah. So we're going to be talking into CRMs, really what they are, what they can do, and how they can help you. And also specifically how you, as an independent artist, can utilize this in your recipes to really craft success in this industry as a whole, not necessarily specifically success for a song or an album or like that aspect of it, but just in general success as an artist.
Absolutely. Yeah. This episode has also convinced me to finally download one and get one set and squared away. I've been through like multiple CRMs myself and just have never stuck to one. It's really difficult to get the muster up the discipline to kind of work with one over a long period of time. But as long as you stick with it and develop a good workflow for what you need to do, it becomes much easier. I promise. I mean, that's with any piece of software, you know. So that's what I'm speaking from experience, from a task manager to your accounting software, right? Yep. So you just need a good routine to get into it. It's just a little difficult to start. There's a slight barrier to entry with this one, and we'll kind of discuss maybe like why that is, but really good thing to have because it's really easy to let things slip through the cracks sometimes when you're really busy as a musician or just as any professional freelancer of any kind within music or whatever you do.
Yeah. So let's real quick dive into exactly what a CRM is and what it can do for you. We briefly mentioned at the start that stands for Customer Relationship Management Software. So like right in the name, it just showcases that it's a way to keep track of the people you've worked with. You can make notes, tied to email, whatever. The main thing CRMs are good for is building and maintaining relationships. And the way they do this is by connecting with other pieces of software that you may use and utilize to organize and connect with other people, such as your calendar or your email account, whatever it may be. And it kind of ties it all together where you can automate, organize, and structures it in a way where it's all in one place and it makes it easy to set reminders, send out emails, keep track of things, and just be more productive ahead of time. So I personally use a CRM as a studio owner to maintain the relationships that I have with artists. You might be shocked to hear this, but probably not because you are an artist. If you're listening to us, if not, hopefully we give you other value, but we're assuming you're an independent artist. Right. But music is very, very personal to everyone who is making music. If you're a music maker, there is something that is from you inside of that music. Yeah, absolutely. And working with other people and trusting them, you want to have a good relationship when you bring them your music, when you bring them a part of you to work on. Yeah. It's not as simple as of a transaction. It's like, hey, let's communicate, let's work together to make this something that matters to you as an artist, matters to your fans, your listeners, and just can be impactful. So having a good connection with the engineer is incredibly important. Yeah. And as an engineer, I recognize that. And as a musician, I recognize that when I've worked with other people before diving into this full time. Yep. But I wouldn't be able to do that with the amount of volume of people that I've worked with
Right.
at a consistently good pace without having something that allowed me to manage it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. This tool is great for that, luckily, as long as you use it properly, right?
Mhm.
I wrote down real quick, I'd summarize it into my own words real quick. I just said that it's a database with automation, reminders, AI, whatever the case may be. AI is probably pretty new in these, but I'm
Yep.
sure a lot of them have it. But it's all built in to keep your clients or your promoters, your venues, your music contacts, let's just go broad,
Yep.
organized with specific information pertaining to each individual, which is really nice. So basically the way that a lot of the CRMs kind of work is like, let's say you log in, you have a database of things. Some CRMs have more features than others, right? Where some will have like forecasts or sales funnels, right? We're not going to be really diving into that today. We're going to be using a CRM in a very vague sense, I would say. Would you agree with that?
Not necessarily vague, but starting off light, that is specifically pertaining to artists, how they can like kind of dip their toes into it and utilize it right off the bat
Absolutely,
without
yeah.
having to go in and program the funnels
Yep.
and setting up all these reminders and setting up like that. Just a basic foundation of like, these are things that it can do that
Yep.
are really beneficial.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you have your contacts in there, right? So you have your database of people, and basically under those contacts, you can write certain notes. You have email addresses, contact info, emails themselves sometimes, depending on what kind of CRM you have. And if you have that, sometimes even phone calls, it won't, I think some of them do record phone calls, but that's really expensive. I think Close.io does.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't record phone calls, it at least records as when you talked to them last or how long you've talked to them for. It has everything you need under there. So that way you are spick and spam on your information and you are up to date with keeping up on this person themselves, right?
Yeah.
So cool things that you kind of use it for, real quick that I want to highlight real quick, just maybe what I would do personally.
Go for it.
And then we'll go back real quick. I just want to do this. So something that I would personally do, because Sean just mentioned about the trustworthiness of having somebody in your back pocket that you work with on your music, and that being an engineer. And as an engineer and as like having my own studio, I have a couple different people that come over and I know exactly what they like in their tea, right? Or what kind of tea they like. And they expect the tea to be there every time, right? Now this list is growing, right? There are actually more people that want tea nowadays than ever before. I'm going to have a really hard time remembering somebody's recipe. So now I'm not only am I a studio owner, but I'm also a barista a little bit. So right under there, I can write down, oh, they want black tea with a little bit of creamer, a little bit of honey in it. And then you're good, right? You'll never have to remember it off the top of your head. But what I'm trying to say is that doing something like this, being a professional, is not only about building the trustworthiness, like Sean said, but it's also about the experience for the person that you're working with. This is very specific to me, right? So we're going to try to dive into how it would be specific for you as a musician.
Oh, we're not going to try. We're going to deliver.
Yeah.
It's gonna be specific to
Hey,
you.
I like that. That's way better. It's not wishy-washy. But I just wanted to do a quick highlight of the importance of it with what Sean just demonstrated here, of what I would do personally. So this is a very basic way to use it, but now we're going to go into a little bit more specifics and some other things that you kind of need to know before we go really deep into CRMs.
Yeah. As we do that, I want to really highlight what you said earlier about being a professional. When we're talking about this and putting people into files and groups and putting their T preferences and contact information and all that, it may sound informal and it may be like music is personal. We just said music is personal. It's about relationships. It's about, enjoying the people you're with and being creative with it and not being too like whatever. It's not transactional. All this stuff is very analytical and data driven.
Yep.
Maybe hard for a lot of us to really dive into it because, not everyone's data driven as much as you and I are.
True.
But, and it might feel like a little kind of a separation of like, well, it's not as personal if I have to set reminders and put down their exact, like this and all this into this specific software to remind me. It'd be better if I could remember it. Well, that brings us back to the key word you said, which is professional.
Yeah.
What you are now doing is allowing yourself to be personable in the correct way with this person every time without overtaxing your own brain, your memory.
Yeah.
And you're giving yourself permission to do what you're going to do anyways, which is forget a lot.
Absolutely.
Life is busy. things are always going to keep coming up, especially if you're doing this right. You're going to be growing and doing this and doing that, and opportunities are going to show up, and you're going to be meeting a lot of people, and it is incredibly hard to keep track of all of that.
Totally agree. I would argue that it's more personable having a CRM, speaking from somebody who doesn't have one, having a CRM with this information in there, so that way you can be personable to that person. Data, I'm not trying to be political at all. Data and statistics are not evil. They're not inherently evil, but sometimes they can be used for evil purposes, manipulative purposes, whatever the case may be. What we're telling you to do right now was like saving someone's tea order, or oh, they typically like the drums louder in their mixes here, or something like that, right? Is not evil. It's just making sure that you deliver what the person wants every time, right? So that way you can also save a lot of headache in the long run, right? By a lot of headache and heartache in the long run from any potential conflicts, but it's also like enhancing the experience, right? And that's the personal touch is so important to the musical experience. So I'm glad that you highlighted that, because I wanted to illustrate that too. Like, even if you're not a data person, this is still important to do. And like Sean said, if you feel like this is too analytical, then if you have another way of doing it, please let us know. We're definitely curious, 100%.
Let us know what works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. But taking that, I want to say before we start going really deep into it.
Oh, I know. So many prefaces.
I keep backtracking. This one's really easy though. This one's really easy. There are so many different types of CRMs available. I mean, if you throw a pencil in Google, right, at Google, it would land amongst a CRM recommendation almost every time. So just do a quick Google search, say whatever. I mean, if you want to pay for one, that's fine. Sean pays for one. Right?
I do. I use Pipedrive, and I really enjoy and recommend it.
Absolutely. And maybe you don't want to start off with a paid one. Maybe you want to start off with a free one. There's HubSpot, there's Agile, there's Zoho. I mean, just type in free CRM on Google and you can find one and start using it yourself, see if it works for you. Even if the free one works for you, perfect. Then you have a free CRM that's going to help you make more money over time and keep better relationships over time. That's awesome. But I just wanted to say that there are a lot of different options here. It's impossible to cover every single one. It's impossible. We'd be here all day. So this will take a little bit of time for you to find the right one that's for you. Just saying. Little disclaimer. Now we're good.
We're good?
I think.
Okay, cool.
Wait, no, I'm just kidding.
Oh, no. All right, I'm going to dive into a specific use case and kind of walk through the whole process of what a CRM can do and how it can be beneficial in this case.
Yeah.
So in this scenario, you are an independent artist or a band, which you probably are one of the two. If not, you're still listening to this. Thank you.
Yeah,
Why?
thanks.
Let us know what value we give.
Let us know what you do.
But in this scenario, you're an independent artist or a band in your local scene, and you are building connections, and you are growing, and you're connecting with other bands that are also successful and also doing it, making friends. And in this scenario, you were learning, like there's another band that is taking it as serious as you are, that is in a similar genre that you performed with and you absolutely love performing with. And it just really works well together. There's a crosstalk between the fan bases. You both grow whenever you guys do stuff together. A rising tide raises all ships, that sort of deal.
Yeah.
What a CRM can do is you can put every single member of this band inside of this one organization, which is the band. So you can have individual contact information for everybody in the band set aside in one location. So if you're talking to somebody like, oh yeah, you should help this guitar player. He's got a buddy who can mix for this show, and hit up the bass player because he's able to do this, or he's got a van on the side you could probably rent from him or whatnot.
Yeah.
Now you know exactly where to go for the contact information. And it's not like you're this is on the phone, this is email. You can put it all in one spot. This is his phone number, this is email, this is whatever, and it's all a part of the organization. Other notes you can put in this organization is specifically what instrument they play, how long they've been with the band, things like that. If they're new, you might want to note that they're new because they might not get some references, or if you've been playing a show with them, they might not have played that show a couple years ago. Just small details like that, so you can constantly upgrade and keep tabs on them as you guys are both growing your career. So that way you can also call back to specific instances. Like if you played an awesome show that something like hilarious happened, like the floor monitor caught fire or whatever.
Yeah.
If you want, you can make a note of that. Any small notes, whatever, you can keep track of, so that you can always call back to it later. So first of all, that keeps it all organized. The next step is you can keep track of certain preferences of them. Hey, they just released this album on this date. So you can reference, keep it fresh in mind, so you can reference it next time you see them, or set yourself a reminder to listen to their album when it comes out. Obviously you can just put it in your calendar, but if you do it all in this one spot, A lot of times they'll connect to your calendar and automatically give you a reminder, hey,
Usually
the album
two-way
dropped
sync
today.
too.
Yeah, exactly. And now you can get even more into details where you're performing with them more and more live. Now you're learning, okay, this album, they have this color scheme.
Yep.
Their branding is like this. Their language is like this. So if I'm going to make a poster for the show, I can now reference the information in the CRM to make sure I'm giving every relevant information that they would want to have out there without having to go and ask them every time.
Yeah.
You can save the links to their pages, their website, stuff like that. You can keep photos that they've sent you in the past all in one organizational area. It's kind of just a hub of all information that you'd want to have on this band.
Yeah.
Now, on top of that, you can spread out. Any contact they give you, you can relate it back to them. So like, let's say you meet their engineer at a show.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, their stuff sounds great. I'm looking to go and do a full studio album. I've been doing all this stuff myself. Get that guy's contact information and tie it back to the band. That way, if you do work with the engineer and it goes great, you can see where that connection lies, go back to this band and say, hey, thank you for introducing me to this engineer.
Yeah.
It's been super helpful or whatnot. Set a reminder to message them or hang out with them. Like if you do a lunch once a month, so you can keep on top of it and like compare notes. Like, oh, what kind of merch did you sell? What kind of, like, how big were the shows you played? How did you get into this one gig location? Was the guy who like was a booking agent, was he very helpful? Was he open? Was he like how should I approach trying to get a show there too? Once again, if you find someone who you're trying to do this with, having a place to collaborate and keep this information together, and then set reminders for it to keep on top of it is really helpful, because they're probably busy. You're probably busy. You might go for 6 months where you guys just don't happen to be on a ticket together and you forget to message them. And then all of a sudden this great personal relationship and contact that you built up, you're no longer giving it the amount of time and respect that it could potentially should deserve, especially if they're doing all their work. If they grow and they blow up and you cease to be top of mind, they can't help you at that point, because they might have forgotten about you as well. It's just kind of staying top of mind, staying relevant, and keeping all that information together.
Yeah.
Hopefully I did that
No, absolutely.
use case well enough.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then the best part about this, I have a few things to add. I have 2 stories and I have one thing to add on top of that. Though I think one of the best parts about what you just illustrated is that a lot of these CRMs have tags that you can kind of put on there. So when you were like mentioning the bass player, hiring a bass player, hiring a guitar player or something for the band, to come in, or you're hiring an engineer, just whatever, you're going to have a lot of people in this Rolodex, this digital Rolodex that you have. And a good way to sort through it and be like, oh, I need an engineer. Let me go see what my contacts are in this CRM. You just go over, and if you made a tag for engineer, right? You click on the engineer one, boom, all your engineer contacts pop up. And then you can say, oh, you know what? I haven't worked with this guy before. Maybe I want to give him, see what we can do together, Or, oh, this guy doesn't actually work as an engineer anymore. He transitioned to doing this, or whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah.
It makes things really well organized, so you can save time and heartache. So you don't have to go through searching through your contacts like I do right now, or your most recent messages, because that's a disaster. And it can help you reinvigorate some maybe contacts that you've lost along the way. And I'm not talking about Craigslist. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, if you do, that's cool. No judgment. Anyways,
I'm glad about the tags though, because like another real quick use case you can use is, let's say you're going to a show and then the bass player drives into a ditch, like bass players are known to do. You can go through your CRM and like
just typical bass player things.
Exactly, yeah. Just typical bass player things. You can go and say bass players, and it'll pull up all the bass players that you know. You can be like, okay, these 3 are in the area. I'm gonna shoot them all a text saying, hey, I'm playing gig tonight. If you are free, please come. We really just need someone to sit in for it. And immediately you can go to the people who are close by and relevant. And the reason why it's better than just having some loose in the text is because you can hit up people who you maybe haven't talked with in a long time, but the tag is in there. Because maybe the 2 people who you played shows with all the time, maybe both of them are playing shows too, and they can't come and fill in. But the 3rd guy or the 4th guy that's on the list, or the 5th or 6th or whatever, is like, yeah, I'm free tonight. Why not? Haven't seen you in a while. And be like, hey, we'll catch up, get a beer afterwards or whatever. And then who knows what might spark out of that? Who knows? Hey, what have you been doing? What's your band been up to? Oh, I know my band kind of fell apart. Okay, cool. We're looking to replace the bass player because he keeps driving into ditches. So do you want to join our band? So, things like that.
Just typical bass player stuff.
Bass player stuff.
I am not, I don't think I'm outlandish in saying this, but you are literally leaving money on the table by not using one of these and opportunities, right? I think that it is that important, and I'm really just saying this for myself. But for real, for everybody listening, you are leaving opportunities on the table by not utilizing a CRM. I have 2 things to add. 2 stories.
Keep
You
going.
ready for story time?
I'm ready for story time.
Okay. Cool
Story time
cool
with
thing about
Brandon.
CRMs, right, is that you put in the contact info and then you can write down notes. The notes part is going to be super powerful. I worked with this guy 3 years ago. 3 years ago at this point. He hit me up on Christmas Eve. Yeah, Christmas Eve. And I forgot what it was about. Oh, I think it was about payment. I didn't hear from him. Like he just kind of like ghosted me. Not really ghosted, but like I think he just stopped doing music. And like I didn't hear from him. And he goes, "Hey dude, like I think I owe you for this project in 2021." I was like, "Oh yeah, like I think I still have that in my invoices somewhere. Like let me go look." And then I was like, how did the house remodeling go? And like I don't know if that was like a shocking moment for him, but like we had talked about it during that session that one time. And I always kept it in the knowledge banks. But writing that down would have been very helpful, right? But he's like, actually, I just put it up for sale. I was like, oh, cool. Like, that's awesome. Congrats on whatever. But like just having that little extra personal touch, like with that session was 3 years ago by this point. And he now just hit me up and like, of course, there's no bad blood at all for the payment. Like whatever, like it happens. Like things fall through the crack. Like I didn't mind at all. Like just happens. And just being like, hey, how did that go? I feel like that went further, you know?
It builds the relationship.
It builds a relationship. And like, even though there was maybe no response to it, right? But I felt good about it, right? And it's just about keeping that extra personal touch and remembering that session that we had talked about that during it, you know, because it was really stressing them out at the time.
Well, people like to feel like they're seen, they're heard, they're important.
Yeah.
And this is like what you did was you basically briefly said, like, I listened, I'm paying important. And you looked out because you had it in your brain still.
Yeah.
Think about a potential positive way it could have gone in that regard. If you have small information like that throughout your CRM of all these people you've worked with that you can keep up with, you can keep doing that again and again and again, and it will only bring goodwill.
Exactly. My next story is like actually the opposite of what just happened here, or what I just talked about here. And when I was working at the radio station, we would have so many different contacts we'd have to reach out to, whether it was label reps, it was promoters, the actual artists themselves, whatever the case may be, the managers. We had so many different points of contact, and it was really hard to keep up with all of them. I obviously wasn't as hands-on as I am now, because like I am the owner of the studio, right? So I have more of a responsibility to be more diligent with my information and my communication. But when I was working for the radio station, it was really difficult to go through my contacts and find just the number of the person, because we would be working so quick, I wouldn't even be able to save the contact info. Eventually, once I started working with more people, that came up more like somebody from Sony or somebody from a certain band, right? I'd put down, oh yeah, this is Steve from the band fill in the blank, right? And even that's like not personable at all. It's just like a point of reference, right? I had nothing to save the previous conversations, nothing to save like how he would prefer to be reached, whether it's email, phone call, text, don't know, have no idea. I'm just gunning it at this point. And having a CRM to organize that might have made things go a little bit more efficiently. Doubt it in the position that I was in, but if you're in a bigger position than what I was in, no doubt that it would be crucially helpful to have something like that in your back pocket, especially when there are a lot of moving parts around what you're doing. So I just wanted to put that out there too.
Fair enough. Well, I really like what you did when you brought up the fact of maybe they respond through email but not through text, or they respond faster through email first, now it's over text. That's an important thing for you to have for any of your contacts, be it promoters or managers or whatever, or even like the studio engineer that you're working with. If you notice that, hey, they respond to an email within a day, but if I DM them on Instagram, they take a week. And if I text them, they take 4 days or whatnot. Make that note. So that way you know that if it's important change you need made, or you need some new files, or you need an instrumental rendered, or hey, there's a glitch in this vocal here, I need it to be re-rendered or reprocessed. I need this fast. I'm gonna send an email. Or like, hey, this is casual. I just want to hit them up and like have like more of a relaxed conversation base. And they respond in about 2 to 3 days, 4 days by text. I'm just gonna shoot them a quick text real quick. It allows you to know what the most effective way to communicate is. This is especially important if you're contacting a music promoter or a record label or a venue owner or anything like that. It's like, hey, this venue owner always gets back within 3 days when I send an email, or when anybody else in the scene sends an email,
Exactly.
but he does not answer calls.
Yep.
If you want that gig, don't send a call.
Yeah.
Make that note.
Yep.
So you're like, oh man, I called him like 5 times like over the past 5 months and he never gets back to me. I really want to play in there. It's like, well, I always email him and he gets back to me right away. Oh, let me make a note of that. I'm going to email next time.
Yeah. I mean,
and sometimes that means you have to get out of your conversation comfort zone to go to what their conversational comfort zone is. But that's how you be professional and actually get the shit done.
Yep, absolutely. A great point, because I'm not a phone call guy. I do not like talking on the phone at all. I prefer text, or I prefer meeting in person, or even over Zoom. Like I will do that. I hate talking on the phone. I'm not sure why that is, but if I get bombarded with like 3 phone calls, I'm just like, dude, like I get a little agitated, you know, but like I take a step back. I'm like, this is the way that they prefer to communicate, right? This person or whomever. So I need to realize that that is their preferred communication method, but that'll allow me to make time to reach their communication efforts, right? Because like, honestly, like getting a phone call in the middle of the day, whether I'm in a session or I'm with the family or I'm with Sean or I'm disking or whatever, I just can't pick up the phone all the time. You know, like I have to like mentally transition to the conversation. Like that's personally for me. Not everybody's built like that. Some people prefer to do it like that. And I also think it's a little bit rude as well, where I'm like, if we were doing the podcast, I got a phone call right now, I'd be like, hello, you know, that's kind of rude, you know? And not only that, it's actually not productive to what I'm doing right at this moment, right? So I'm going to try to meet the person halfway eventually, like maybe schedule a phone call. But not only that, I'll also have stuff to bring to the table, because getting blindsided kind of sucks too.
It does.
Sometimes I'll answer calls. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes I will.
Well, so basically don't call Brandon.
Yeah. Don't call me. Or text me before you call, and then we'll come up with a time to call.
Yeah, I'll schedule something.
But yeah, I mean, it's just communication styles differ. So definitely important to note in your CRMs when you use one.
Yep. Other important tips and things you might want to add to a CRM that you can kind of keep track of. If anybody in a band that you know of or a friend you have works at Guitar Center, make note of that. You can possibly take advantage of the Guitar Center discount.
Or Sweetwater.
Discount. Yep.
Sweetwater probably has a very good CRM with the amount of times that they call.
Oh my God, yeah. With all the information to keep.
Yeah, I believe I've seen somewhere that it is actually a proprietary CRM that they use. So it's not something that you can just go out and buy. But yeah, it seems like it's doing wonders for them, because they do a great job in that.
Yeah. So that's one thing to keep track of. Another thing you can keep track of is the rates of different, like let's say like luthiers or musician keepers. I don't fucking know. You can keep the rates of different luthiers in your notes and how fast and how good of a job they do with your instruments, so that you know, like, okay,
Great
cool.
point.
This guy does a really, really good job. He's a little more expensive, so maybe take it to him like once every year or whatnot for like a major update. This guy does a good job setting up and he's a lot cheaper. So if I need a quick fix or whatever, just some basic maintenance, I'll take it to him. For me personally, if you have a piano tuners, that kind of information or whatnot. If you are contacting a label, keep track of, hey, who are the people at the label? Who's my point of contact? Who is the person who is most excited about my music? Because maybe they're the ones you want to have a conversation with more and take better care of them, since they are actually like excited and motivated to follow through on your music, versus just like a blanket email that tags them all in. Yep. Because wherever you are, you want somebody that's on your side who is willing to push for you. Yeah. So making a note of that can be very, very important.
Absolutely. I have one even better, and this goes against everything that we've been saying, but you can have anti-contacts in there. You can blacklist people in there. So if you worked with somebody and they're just an asshole, or they stiffed you on a payment for playing a gig, you can put that contact in there and make a tag for it that says or blacklist, right? And so if you ever get reached out to by that person again, you know not to engage with any kind of dealings of any sort, right? Obviously, this is up to you and how far you take it. Maybe you're a more forgiving person than somebody else, but it's always nice to have in there and maybe the reason why, right? To remind yourself, oh yeah, this is because of this moment here, right? Yeah. Now that's not something to do maybe, all the time, but if you've gotten stiffed a couple times by somebody, maybe a good thing to have noted in there, right? And have you on your blacklist. Just make sure we don't contact anymore. We don't have to work anymore. Call it a done deal.
Because it helps you, especially if someone like doesn't pay you, helps you avoid working with them in the future. Yep. Helps the community by you telling other bands like, yeah, this guy stiffed me exactly on these dates, this exact amount. You might not want to do it again. Yep. And if the person reaches out to you like, hey man, we want you to do this or whatever, you can be like, okay, cool, I'll do it if you pay these amounts that you owe me. Exactly. Or whatnot. You have like a record of it. Yep. So that's a good thing. You can use it as the opposite of like, don't interact with these people versus do interact with these people. But really the key use of the CRM is setting up reminders to reach out, say hi, if they mention like, yeah, I'm looking to get this new guitar that I've been like really wanting for my whole life, you can set a reminder like, okay, cool. Well, I want to keep in contact with this guy. So 3 months later,
Yep.
shoot this guy a message or give him a call or give him an email asking like, hey man, just curious if you got that guitar yet. I'd love to, see it or hear it at some point. Just like that kind of reminder, because it's personable. It keeps you top of mind. And especially if you potentially like need them or want them to help you out in a certain way.
Yeah.
Starting off with a casual, actually like, I'm curious about you versus a, hey, can you do this for me?
Right.
It just helps build it, and it seems less transactional. Even though it is more data driven, it seems less data driven.
Absolutely. I'll piggyback off of that with another one where it's like if you're playing a show and you're playing, let's say, the Blind Pigs, since we always use that as an example, and there's a promoter there that specifically set up the show, and he's like, hey, you guys killed it. I plan on doing a festival sometime in the summer. I don't have any details on it right now, but I want to do this in July. Well, you can put that, okay, CRM, I'm going to follow up with them in April, see how the festival is going, remind them that we are interested in this. And just the power within that, guarantee you'll land the gig. Because if he really enjoyed you guys and you guys were in great communication with each other, he's been busy setting up the actual festival itself. He's going to forget, right?
Yeah.
So reach out to him, follow up, be like, hey, I just want to see where we're at with the festival. I know we had talked about it briefly. You said, oh, perfect. I was looking for one more person, or I totally forgot to let you guys know you guys can have this slot or something. But you won't know that unless you set the reminder within your CRM to do it, right?
Yeah.
Because you'll be busy too. Things fall through the cracks all the time. So just having that reminder will help you save that opportunity, even one that's not even a concrete opportunity yet. It could just be an idea, right? But the reminders is really where CRM shine really well for our uses, right?
And that's how you really make your return on investment.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like if someone is working on a festival and they completely forget about you because they only met you once at the one show, and you send the reminder 2 months in advance or 3 months in advance of like, hey, are you still working on this? We'd love to be involved. Let us know the details or whatever. Like, oh yeah, my bad, forgot about you. Here, we'll put you in this slot. This is our budget, yada, 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 or like whatever it may be.
Yep.
Even if it's like a down low, casual, local thing and you do it for really cheap or free or whatever and break even, because it's a big thing, you feel like it's worthwhile for getting more people to hear about your music and merchandising and whatnot. All of a sudden, all the merch sales or what you get paid for the gig, that could pay off the CRM right there.
Absolutely.
Right there.
Yep.
Oftentimes, like 1 or 2 gigs, if you do want to go for a paid CRM for the additional features, that's all it takes.
Yep.
1 or 2 gigs that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you never know who's going to be at those 1 or 2 gigs too.
No.
Right? That could spawn off into a whole nother thing, right? Another place that the CRM is really shining is keeping the paper trail that we were kind of talking about. So like with email, with phone calls. I wish there was one that did it with text. I really do, because like I'm a really big texter. A lot of my communication is done through text. I won't answer on Instagram a lot of the time for like specific projects and stuff. It's all through text, which I should probably transition to email at this point. I have with a few people and it's worked out really well, but getting everybody to transition is really tough, right? Getting other people to do it. Yeah. So a lot of it's done through text. And I really wish that I could save certain text within somebody's profile, so that way not everything was going in there. For example, my boy Jalen, who just released an album, by the way. So congrats to Jalen Frazier, man. Awesome guy. You should check out his stuff. But him and I, we're like friends. So like we'll text about Michigan football. We'll text about basketball. You know what I'm saying? We'll text about other hip hop stuff or whatever. I don't want those going into that, because like that's personal, right? But if there was a way that he could be like, or if I could save like certain like notes on songs under his profile, that'd be great, because I could go back and recall those, no problem. Wouldn't have to sift through the thread. But what I'm trying to say is that the paper trails that CRMs create is extremely helpful. So you can go back and pinpoint exactly when somebody contacts you or when you contacted them, and follow up on certain ideas or certain opportunities, right? Again, it's another follow-up thing, but it's really important to have just in case you ever need reference back to it.
Yeah. And also, once again, some extra protection. It keeps all emails or all conversations in one specific area. So if, let's say you do a show and the promoter is like, yeah, I'll pay you $500 flat fee or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the show comes up, it's like, all right, guys, you did great. Here's $300. You can be like, well, wait a minute. That's not what we agreed upon. Here is the paper trail showing exactly what the amount was. Like,
exactly.
You have a quick way to go back and reference it.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Also helps protect yourself. Another thing about some CRMs, which might make some worth paying for or make decide which way you want to go, most of them, at least the ones that I'm aware of, do have apps that tie with them.
Yep.
So that way when you're on the go, you can quickly make notes or whatnot. And update it without having to go to a computer or setting a time aside to go and remind you. If like after a call or whatever, you can just whip out your phone, type in the adjustments and make it work. But the reason I like Pipedrive personally, which is the CRM that I use, is because it does have a pipeline feature where you can like break a task down into steps and move people through the pipeline. Since I'm an engineer, I run a studio, I have like reached out to this person, they've responded, a project started, recorded, mixed, mastered, revision 1, revision 2. I can keep track of exactly where we are and just move them through the pipeline until the song's completed. But if you're a band and you sort of contacted to play this venue, put this person's contact information there, contacted to or asked to join this label, or reached out to go on this podcast or do this interview, or reached out to sit in on this session with us, any sort of task you're doing, you can make some sort of pipeline for it and have people move throughout it so you know exactly where you are and where you left off. And it also tells you what the next steps are kind of right off the bat that you can like just follow through with it.
Gotcha.
Anything that's a repeatable process, it makes it easier to know where you are.
Yeah, if you don't mind me asking, this might be helpful for the viewers. Which tier do you use in Pipedrive?
I pay $290 a year. I don't know what tier that is.
Okay. Whatever the $290 a year is, or roughly around then, is the one that Sean uses.
Yeah.
So it might be the second tier, maybe.
Might
sounds
be the
like
second tier.
That sounds like it might be the second tier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like I think I saw their second tier was $30 a month if you pay monthly. $360 they give you a $70 discount. Sounds like it'd be tier 2.
Probably.
I'm just making it up right now.
That's what I'm
thinking.
I've been using it for so long at this point, 3 years, that it's just every February that charge goes to my account and I just keep on using it.
Totally. And the only reason why I'm asking is because, like I said before when we first started, is that a lot of these CRMs might have features you don't need, right? So you have to make sure that you get the right one that's for you. And I think it sounds like Pipedrive is pretty customizable.
Yeah, I've been able to do quite a good amount with it. I know with Pipedrive you can actually download other people's presets.
Nice.
So I got my start with my setup from Brian Hood of Six Figure
Love
Creative.
Brian Hood. He's done so much. Seriously. It's been awesome.
So I was able to just grab that, download it into Pipedrive, and I was already off to the start, which if you're looking into a CRM, if they have like already set kind of templates you can use to hit the ground running, that's definitely a perk to it as well.
100%.
Yeah. Oftentimes, like let's say there's a sort of, even if there's a feature that you think would be really beneficial, if the way that the CRM is laid out and interacts with you isn't easy for you to understand and pick up and use, it may be worthwhile to try a bunch of free ones, see the ones that you like the layout of first.
Great point.
And then go upgrade to a paid tier once you know, like, okay, I actually like using this. This actually makes sense in the organization of my brain.
Yep.
Because they're all laid out slightly different. They all have slightly different perks. So doing that first step first.
Yeah, because if you're dreading opening the fucking app, you're never going to open the app and use it.
No.
So you might as well get one that tickles the brain a little bit, because I definitely have had that experience with CRMs, and that's why I never fucking open the damn app. So that is a big one for me.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad that you made the point about templates, because there's a barrier to entry with this, right? It is a pretty time-consuming startup, I would say. Because if you're like me, you've gathered many contacts throughout the years. You have to kind of sit down and put those contacts into your CRM to get it started. And that takes up a fair amount of time, especially if you have multiple phone numbers for somebody because they changed their number, they moved. Just sorting through all that information is a pain in the ass to start up. But go through it. And I'm telling myself this, just go through it and get it done, because you'll be a lot happier at the end of it. And like even like having those multiple phone numbers, you'll know which phone number it is in your CRM, because if you keep it up to date, you're good, right? Instead of having Apple update it for you or whatever the case may be. So I wanted to put that out there, that this is not necessarily an easy thing to start out with, but the templates that Sean talked about earlier will make it so much better for you in the long run. And if you have that extra customization on your end, right, which Sean was just talking about, the workflow and the layout, it'll make you actually want to open it and do it. So massive keys to CRMs right there, in my opinion, because those are why I've quit them, is having those barriers right there, those two. Other than that, it's been great. But I never open it, so I don't know.
Oh man. Well, that's why I use Chrome as my browser, and you can group pages together into different subfolders. So when you open up Chrome, you can just click on the different grouping and it opens up all the tabs, and that automatically.
Yep.
So I have a work group tab that has my CRM. That's the first thing, some other contact things or whatnot, my calendar, my motion that I use, and some other stuff that I just click, pops it all open, and it's the first thing I do whenever I get in because that's built into my habit of it. But any way to easily just pop it up and get it in front of you, really helpful. And that's where the app can help as well because you just have it on your phone at all times. So real quick, I personally use Pipedrive. Another popular one is HubSpot. There's a free version of that.
And then there's a paid version too if you like it.
There's a couple other ones out there. You ran through a bunch earlier in the episode. If you want kind of a middle ground where you can pay a small amount for a kind of lifetime access, sometimes CRMs come up on AppSumo. Which if you use a good deal of software to organize your business, your band and whatnot, then AppSumo is a good place to really get good software for a really good price. A lot of it's lifetime memberships instead of paying monthly or yearly, because most of these CRMs, when they are paid, are a monthly, yearly subscription. I'm really getting tired of subscriptions.
Me too. I am too.
Whereas when you go to AppSumo, a lot of it is newer software. So there's usually sometimes some bugs, some things aren't working quite right. There's some communication errors. So it's kind of a risk you're taking. But if it succeeds and it goes well, you're ushered in right off the bat for a lifetime membership. That you are now, like, you're along with the ride. So it's a little bit more risk reward. It's not an established one, but you can find some really good pieces of software on that website.
There's definitely a risk to it. Like Sean just mentioned, like sometimes it can become abandonware if it doesn't take off. I've seen that maybe a couple times on AppSumo. I've also seen apps that I use now that were once on AppSumo, and I could have gotten a hell of a deal and not had to pay every year like I do now for some plugins on my website or something, right? So like Sean said, there is risk and reward. Unfortunately, I've been on the side of not getting any reward just because I found it too late. But AppSumo can be a great place to start and see like, hey, I kind of believe in this. This looks good. I feel good about this. I'm going to invest now before it becomes $40 a month permanently when I just paid $40 up for a lifetime membership, right? So definitely check out AppSumo. They got some good stuff on there. Then they have some okay stuff on there. So you got to kind of sift through it. Read the reviews. Those are really helpful a lot of the time. But seriously, the people that review on AppSumo are usually pretty actually thorough. I found.
I agree with that.
So yeah, AppSumo is great though. Great way to save some cash.
Anything else you want to dive into with CRMs?
Not today. I don't think so.
So here's a call to action for you. If you go out there and get a CRM, be it free or paid or whatever, the first thing you need to do is put in the contact information for either the podcast, for myself, or for Brandon, and set a reminder to contact Brandon at...
Wow, that was really good. You can contact me at studio222recording.com. I do a lot of tracking, mixing, and mastering. I mainly stick into the hip hop and pop realm, but I will literally work on anything because music's fun and awesome. So if you're looking to get some services done like that, please hit me up. You can also find me on Instagram and all the other social medias at studio222recording, or you can find me at my personal one at _Brandon McLeod. Sean, where can we find you?
Well, you can put the contact for me in your CRM just link to the website at swsrecordings.com. There's a contact form there where you can submit and reach out to me, or you can talk over email, schedule a call, whatever works best for you. I do remote mixing and mastering, mainly in the folk, rock, and acoustic genres, but I also do one-on-one artist development coaching, which is basically this podcast, but more specific towards you and step-by-step to really help customize the process of helping you have success in this industry and take your music to the next level. So if you're interested in that, you can reach out to me at swsrecordings.com. Also, both of us have social media accounts at Studio 222 Recording and SWS Recording. So if you want to follow any of that, we also have a lot of information for this specific podcast. So if you want to add us to the contact information in your CRM, you can add it under podcast at musicmakerscookbook.com. If you want to reach out through email, tell us what you liked about this episode ideas, things you want us to cover in the future. You can also give us links to anybody you think you'd like us to interview, or if you want to interview, you can give us your pitch there. We also have, this podcast is released anywhere you want to listen to podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Google Podcast, Amazon Podcast, all that. But you can also follow us on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. We post shorts, things like that, informational content that's more specific to those platforms. So if you want to check those out and kind of get more of a deep dive on specific areas, follow us, subscribe there, and leave us a comment or message us saying, hey, I want you to dive deeper on this topic, and we'll make something more specific towards that or anything you need more information on and put that there.
Yeah, Sean posts some awesome shorts, so you should go check those out. Those have been doing pretty well.
They have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really happy with that, man. You've been killing it.
Yeah.
Been killing it, dude.
I'm just trying to showcase. He's talking about Believe It or Not merch, which is just
Mm.
some crazy ass shit that musicians have sold in the
Yeah,
past.
dude.
There's some weird stuff out there, but the really whole point of it is to showcase that you don't have to just have beanies and shirts or whatever at your merch booth. You can go creative. Like, we're creatives, we make music. You can do whatever you want that's specific to your art.
Yep.
One that's coming up is Miley Cyrus sold 24K blunt papers.
Really? I didn't know
rolling
that.
papers.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, so she sold those. I was talking to Kevin the other day. We were disc golfing, and I have some custom disc golfs that I've gotten for gifts over the years. But like, for his music, he could easily make custom disc golfs and sell them.
Yeah.
Disc golf discs and sell them at his concerts.
Totally, dude.
So, especially he's got a song called So High. You could brand it with So High we were talking about. And like,
Yep.
it'd be perfect.
Yep. Didn't he go disking in that video?
I don't think I've seen the video.
Oh, really?
I'll have to check that out.
Okay, yeah. Check
Yeah,
it out. Eric
yeah.
did the video.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. Mhm.
But yeah, no. So if there's something that's more specific to your audience, go crazy with it. If it's something that they're
Absolutely.
going to enjoy, don't be like, oh, it has to be a t-shirt or beanie. Be unique.
Yep.
Make something that's different. And especially like if I'm throwing with a disc that's got my favorite band on it and someone's like, hey man, what disc is that? It's like, oh yeah, it's this disc. It's got my favorite band.
Mhm.
And a lot of times, yeah. So just be creative.
Yeah.
Yada, yada, yada.
Yep.
We have stuff. That's what the shorts are all about.
I think they're awesome shorts.
I appreciate that.
No, I appreciate it.
I appreciate it more. We need to cut down this outro because we're making it really long. But that was fun. I agree. I appreciate this conversation. Thank you for listening. If you're still sticking around, why? But we'll catch you at the next episode, because if you're still listening to it now, hopefully you like us rambling enough to tune in next week, because we post every Tuesday.
Every week, baby.
Every week. Not going to stop.
Never.
We're almost on our year, first
I
full
know.
year. It's
I
going to
know
be
we're coming
insane.
up close.
Yeah.
Coming up quick on
Got a
it.
crazy episode coming out for that one.
Yeah.
And by that, we mean we're just going to kind of relax and talk.
Yep. We're gonna fuck off for that one. Yep.
Doing it for a year, we can fuck off.
That's right.
End of
That's right.
season 2.
Mhm. Yep. And then we'll start up season 3, because it never stops, baby.
Never stops. It don't stop coming, and it don't stop coming, and it don't stop coming, and it don't stop coming,
Okay.
man. And it don't stop coming, man. And it don't stop coming. Okay, thank you for tuning in.
We're so sorry.
And please end it.
Bon appetit.
There we go.